YouTube has returned their editing possibilities. They had taken away all their editing tools, but they're back now, so I might be able to edit out some of the dead spots on these. So Zoom is a little bit weird here, but I'm going to go get the databases and add those again. So I'm going to go to the web. That should pop up. Come on, beneath the web page. Is it behind this somehow? It says that it's up. There it is. All right. So I don't care. I actually think they're lying about that, but that's a different thing.
I used to actually work at Firefox, but what someone's ever used Chrome there.
I use Chrome quite a bit. I use Edge for some things. There actually are a couple of neat features in Edge. The ability to annotate web pages and save it as a picture is nice. There's some other nice things it has, but mostly I use Chrome. So I am going to do Firefox. To me, got too cluttered. I didn't like it very much, although they've been cleaning up their image lately. So I'm going to github.com/spconger. That's my GitHub site. And it has 97 repositories currently. I've been thinking I might go through and delete some of the really old ones that don't have much utility, but Word in database schema has all the database stuff. And the first one I'm going to get is the Community Assist SQL. So that is the one we'll use for all the examples. And I know most of you have already got it. I'm going to maximize here. Boy, that mouse is floating slow. All right. And I'm going to go to raw so that it pastes cleaner. I'm going to just do Control-A, Control-C. I'm going to go back to the SQL Server. And I'll help you guys do this if you need help when you get your thing ready. So I'm doing a new query, and then I'm going to paste that in there. We did this last time. I know there's a lot of treading water here for some of you. We'll do it. So I'm going to do Control-V. And I'm just going to execute it. You can execute it by doing F5 or clicking this little green triangle. And it shouldn't take too long. You know that it's worked when you get down, wow, down here, and you see all of these. Those are all the inserts. So if I refresh on databases, we will have Community Assist in there too. This is moving slow. It's kind of bothering me. All right, and you can close this. You don't need to save that script unless you just want it, but it's always there on GitHub. All right. Now I'm going to go back to the web page, to GitHub. I'm going to go back. And back. And I actually could just click on database schema. There we go. There also. Why is this so slow? All right. Then we want metrolog alt zip. And we want to, you can't view it because it's a zipped file. It's all binary. So we want to download it. Shouldn't take but a second. I want to save it. And then I'm going to open the folder. And as I said, I'll help you do this if you need. So it's a zip file. So what we need to do is right-click on it. We want to extract all. I'm going to browse to where the database files are, which will be, let me bring that up, this PC, local disk C, program files, SQL Server, and I'm going for the last one. Typically, it'll be the last one. The path may vary if you install a different version or thing on yours. I'm going to go into data. It says I can't go there, but I'm going to continue. And then I'm going to select the folder. And then I'm going to extract everything to that folder. And it'll show me the folder when it gets there. Okay, so this is the folder. Notice Community Assist is in there. Every database has two files. And there, just so you copied it or moved it, we did it. So MetroAlt has two files. Community Assist has two files. It's always the data file and the log file. You need both of those files. You can have more than that. If you take the summer course, you can have more than two files. You can divide the data file up into multiple files if you want. The other thing is that these files probably shouldn't be on the same disk. Certainly the log shouldn't be on the same disk as the data files. But we're not going to worry about that. So, all right, so having done that, the data files are in the proper place. And we still need to attach it in SQL Server. Boy, this is floating so bad. Two things. The mouse is moving slowly. It's not responding very well. Reasons not to do this in a virtual machine. Partially it's the join, but on databases, this is the other part. Right-click, and I need to attach. Database files are always attached to the server. One of the things for that is that if you go into the files, once they're attached and try to move them, it won't let you. Right? You can't move the files while they're attached. So you have to detach them in order to move them, or turn the server on. One of the two. Database files on these, unlike say Access or something like that, these are not meant to be moved. Right? They can be, but they're not really meant to be. They're server-centric files. So I'm going to add, and I will add MetroAlt. I will do OK. And later I might show you, this is actually more efficient in SQL. You know, you just create database for attach. So it has the data and the log files there, and I'm going down to OK. All right. Two other things I will do. So when I come back up here, notice that MetroAlt is there. And when you open it, it has all the tables, and it'll have all the data. A couple of other things that I'm going to do while we're here and while we're waiting. So you've got it? So open up Vmware. Yep. So you want the Workstation Pro. Do Open Virtual Machine. Navigate to the desktop. Do that one, 17, and then click on that file. then just do power on. And moved it is good. Pretty good. I think we're mostly getting there.
Just close this one.
It doesn't matter. It's not running. When you get in there, it's password. Yeah, that's
Okay.
and then I'll probably set up.
Did you do that?
There.
Oh.
Here's the copy. Does it work again? It is possible to make it work on a Mac. It's just very complicated. So you're ready to log in. How's yours doing? This is getting.
Almost.
This is the part on the video that will be done. Yeah, that's great. It just replaces it with it down those points. So it's slow through. There it goes. So it doesn't show up over here unless you refresh. That errors. Did you select part of it? Open up this database and try to click on database. Community, so go to the data schema, community assist, not the 2017 one. No, not the 2017.
That's another class, right?
Yeah, that's for the other one. It doesn't have any data. So the one underneath it, let's go. Yeah. They just do it. And then this one. Doesn't matter. This one first. You're doing the. Yeah. So just do the. Yeah. Okay. Although if there are errors in it, we might have to check that. Did you get it? Okay, and you got the microelectronic. So you're in database schema. And if you want to make it big, you can do that, or you can actually just expand it to if you want. But did you get the assist? Or something that's moving my phone?
Not the 2017.
I know that a couple of you that laptops are bored.
I'm at 87 now.
Okay.
Did you say to go to raw then?
Yeah, turn it to raw. Copy it all. Just Control A, Control C. Then we need to open up the SQL Server. So just do it. So we get a SQL Server Management Studio. So you might have to SQL as opposed to SQL. Keep going. Space server. Want the management studio. There we go. Yeah. I don't know why the management studio doesn't just come up. It used to. I'll make a new query here too. We'll get going in a moment. What was the path for? So the path. So if you extract them all, go ahead. So right click. It's already extracted. No. So extract all the browse. and go to not SVC. Not the SVC. Program. Simplicity.
But it's not the same as
No, actually, that's a little different. So and then right click on database. Copy it, right click on it. Do attach. And do add. And then choose network. And then do a code. You're almost there, right? So go to this PC. See that?
I was like, oh, yeah.
Program.
that's a degree more basically. So they want to know degree is lots of
Okay, so you're,
Sorry, first
that's
time.
fine. You're only seconds off. Did you get, you want to download? Save it. Open it folder. So right click on it,
I still
extract all. Down the browse. You want to go to this PC. You want to go to local PC. Program files. Access to this one. And last one.
I feel like I'm reducing
And
my
then in SQL Server, right click on database, choose attach. Still got a minute or two left. Did you get that to all of them?
I'm not sure.
All right. So did you get the database? You copied the database, right? So do nuclear. Paste. And then run it. Hit the execute.
No, I don't know that. I like follow my stuff. I'm like, what do I do with this?
You open it. Okay, good. So got that one.
Okay,
And
so
if you open databases, you should see it. Right, if you don't see it, right click and refresh. It's there.
This one?
So let's go get the other one. Go back to the web page. And go back.
And this is here.
Go to database. Oh, you're there. So let's go to Metropol zip. Zip. Download. Save. and then folder, you're open folder, actually don't open it. Go back. We can just go here, go to there,
And then do like,
go to download, actually go to extract, browse,
start this gets out there.
go down, this can see, local disk C, program
I
files,
do feel like you guys need to let's go back to SQL
Microsoft SQL Server,
Server.
the last one, and the first one, and then data. Select folder. Extract. Luckily, you don't have to do this once. Go back to it. Right click on SQL Express. Actually, do it on data. Just right click on it. Attach. And unnatural alt. Right click. And do OK. Then just do OK. And we'll have that for all. So we've got, yeah. Because it's not. Right, so you're gonna have to pass it. My sister just broke up its character. I really want that over. I'm not sure. Are you set up?
Well, he was kindly helping me, but like I could follow up to a certain point. I actually wrote everything down, but now I have to do the nitty gritty.
All right, so we need to get into here. So let's at least make this big.
I know it would help, right?
So click into it and log in. Yeah, so just click in it. And then it's password, the same password we've been using.
The one you just created for me, or
No, this one is
Oh.
this is a different account. So you're gonna have to log in as me.
Oh.
P@SSW0RD1.
I'm sorry. Did you say that password?
Yes, P@SSW0RD1.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I thought that's what you meant, and I was like, did I say that?
Yeah.
Okay.
At some point, if you want, I can show you how to change the user. But in order to change the user, we would have to create a user, and we'd have to add it to SQL Server. Just no, yes, it doesn't matter. Cool. So we need to open up, which is I'm gonna maximize it actually. Just because it's a little thing to have that little postage stamp. This takes it out of maximize.
Is this the virtual machine or is this?
This is the virtual machine. That's the toolbar for the virtual machine.
Okay.
So you want to open up the Management Studio, so SQL Server Management Studio. It takes it a moment. You almost have to write SQL Server.
Oh, right.
You've already got SQL Server profile. Is it down there somewhere? SQL Server. And I would pin it at the bottom just so you don't have to look for it again.
This one's open.
Yeah, once it's open.
So this, we would have a virtual machine and now we're going into that,
Right.
running on top of the virtual machine.
Well, this is in the virtual machine. Virtual machine is basically like you have another copy of Windows with its own programs and everything. So this is in the virtual machine. While that loads, so almost there.
Almost.
I wanted to show a couple of other little things and then we may start on the functions. As I said, I will give some time for people to catch up and maybe early next week. We'll see how long this is taking. For those of you with laptops, I know you're kind of bored probably. All right, so do connect.
I didn't,
So this program talks to SQL Server, it's not the SQL Server itself. So do new query.
wait, I actually didn't know it's on it.
You
So I already
tried.
control alt the GitHub stuff. It's missing a copy. Paste.
So once the new query is up, click it again. I don't think it- There you go.
So I did copy it. Control
So just
paste,
paste it,
now
yeah.
Just paste it. Control and
And
then
then-
execute.
Yep,
And then
you're there.
works when you see inserts. Refresh on database.
Okay, so,
Alright, now I'm not sure.
But
I
it's not-
already executed this. Now I have to do the second part. Should I refresh the database? So now it says new code this should start. Go back to GitHub.
Yeah.
Found code to make it to the retro log.
I'll see if I can look at
So how do I get out of it? You just click
it. But it's not in the-
So that'll be the confirmation.
That's what I thought.
You have an idea.
Oh, retro log.
Oh.
All right, so a couple of other things I wanted to show you in general before we get going, but let's see. Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
So you do
Download.
it in the virtual machine?
Yes, you should do it in the virtual machine.
You could drag it in.
You could drag it in if you do it outside. But it's better to do it in the virtual machine.
Sorry, I'm going on this one. Alright, it's back then.
This is taking long enough. We'll have it on hold. The good news is that after today, we should never have to do this again, this crap.
Why is this happening weird? The last person was doing that. Download it, save it, right?
Right,
Then open the folder.
open folder, right, you got this.
Right click, only because I wrote something else. I just want to do it right though. Extract all.
Yeah,
No,
yes, extract.
it's not. Oh, here, extract all.
Yeah, and then browse. You got it. Not yet, you browse. And then,
PC.
I wanted, as I said, to show you a couple, three little things before we continue, but I'll wait until people get set up. So if you open up the keys, you open up that folder.
Do you know which one it is of these two? Is it this one or this one? Okay, and then it's this one.
There is a way.
Thanks, guys. And then it's data.
Well, that's.
Oh, and then select folder. Wait, is that one? Oh, next. What do we browse it to? So select extract. Go to escalate, right? Where is that?
Taylor, I got the T right.
I think I rejected that. Oh, yeah. Like I mean,
Oh, yeah, yeah. We'll just back around.
Yeah, they're working.
sure, okay.
So, just go to the bottom on there. Sorry.
It's okay. We'll right click on this. So,
So the
Like the
server
canvas?
program.
you mean like close out here? I'm like a little confused with all these new machines. I'm like, what is this? This is it, right?
Database. Patch.
And then add metro file.
Go to add. Add your alt.
Oh, and this is right? Okay.
Show you all your databases. Metro alternate, you got to
Oh, cool. Thank you. How do we do this virtual machine? It's like a one or besides class. How do we map? What's this one? Oh wait. What did I do? Oh, that's it. I had it. And then
So maximize the virtual machine, so that's basically like the desktop.
that's
Maximize it.
okay, so
So
now
this is
I'm
your
in the
virtual
virtual
machine.
machines. This is
So this is the SQL Server program that you're in Magic Studio. So
which one am I supposed to be looking at? Like this one, right?
are you just trying to get started with virtual machines or things your screen?
I'm just trying to follow him now that I have everything. So I'm just like not sure like which one I'm supposed to be working on.
So you should, you have it, right? It looks like everything's there. That won't, if anything will work. I mean, if you want to either full screen it,
Thank you.
or you can let's do VM, view, auto size, auto set. And then this is the image you can access.
Thank you.
And you got Metro Alt and you got community assist, so you're set up. So I think everyone is set up, right? All right, so I'm going to show you a couple of other setup things which you can do, and then we'll start talking about the next thing. So one of the things I'm going to do real quickly is I'm going to go to Tools, Options, and I want to set up a couple of things there. You don't have to. One of the things I'm going to do is I'm going to make my font really big. And I might make it big enough that I can run this without zooming all the time, because the zoom is a pain. So I'm going to do fonts and colors. And again, you don't have to do this unless you just think the font is too small for you, which it can be. Oh, come on, that is slow. A lot of times when a virtual machine is this slow, it's because it's downloading updates in the background. So I'm going to do, for the text editor, I'm going to make my font about 20, just fairly big. You probably do not want them to be that big. I'm also going to make my grid results bigger. Those are the results you get from doing the query. I'm going to make that about 16. Again, you don't have to do that, and that one will require me to restart the studio. The other thing I'm going to do before I leave here, which is useful, is I'm going to go down to text editor, all languages, and I'm going to, yeah, I know. I'm going to add line numbers. I'm not going to add word wrap because I can wrap things wherever I want. You can break a line wherever you want. But I'm going to add line numbers. This one you might want to do. It's nice to have line numbers. Just to let you know, though, the line numbers on the screen don't necessarily match the line number of the error message. They don't count from the same point necessarily. This is under Tools, Tools Options. And you can actually, under Tools Options, you can change just about anything you want. The only thing that, damn this thing, the way it floats. It doesn't seem to have, like usually under General, well, there is a color theme, blue. Does it have a dark? No, so it's got blue or light. It doesn't have the dark schema. There is a way to get the dark schema, but I don't know what it is. I'll have to look. So I'm going to do OK. And it'll make my font here really big, and I have line numbers. That being said, if I want the results things to not be microscopic, I need to restart this. You guys don't have to for just fonts, except the grid font. Line numbers are fine. I am going to kill my zoom because I think the fonts will be big enough. Except there are a couple of things I want to show, but I'll do it. I'll do it in a minute. All right, so I'm going to bring back SQL Server. And I will zoom for a couple of things because I want to show you how to do the diagrams. And then I will. But first, so everything over to the side is really tiny. Is this big enough to see from the back, or do I want to make it bigger yet? You can see it okay? All right. I am going to zoom for a couple little things real quickly. So, I mean, that's even bigger, so that would work. Under the databases here, so we've got the Community Assist and the things. I'm going to show you how to make the diagrams, and then, as I said, we'll start on the next assignment. So I am going to, under Database Diagram, I'm going to make a new database diagram. For Community Assist, this works just fine. Oh, actually, that gave me an error. Why did that give me an error?
I got it too. Yeah.
Well, it should give a dialog box that basically just says, it should just say that it's not, that the tools aren't available if you want to add them. I think I could fix both of these. For the same way. And it's not a great way, but we'll do it anyway. I'm going to go right-click and do Properties.
We're following you, right?
Yeah, you can, if you want. I mean, you might want these diagrams, is what I'm thinking.
Only if it says, only if it had that error.
Yeah, yeah, you don't need it. On your machine, you shouldn't have that error. It's something that David did with the user, I think. It's not an absolute admin or something. I'm going to change, so this is the dialog box for this. I'm going to go to Files. And it doesn't like, I didn't want to do that. I just wanted to get rid of it. It doesn't care for this. I think if I do SA and do OK. Yeah. SA is system administrator. This is not something you want to do in real life. All right. Because it could open up a security problem. So I'm going to try doing database diagrams again. New database diagram. Yes, and this is the dialog I was expecting. I'm going to say yes. Okay, and then I'm going to do another. Okay, there it goes. Oh wait, this is slow. And I'm going to select all the tables. Well, so I'm just going to do a shift. The first one is selected, so I'm just going to hold down the shift and catch the last one. And then I'm going to do add. It shouldn't take this long. Mine is being really slow. Is it still adding? No.
Maybe it's just messing with you. I'm just kidding.
No, I think it's downloading updates, which is a pain.
I do too.
So I'm going to close this now. And it'll organize them for you. You can move things around if you want. Just real quickly, this is that fake charity. There's a person table where all the person information is. Their addresses are in a separate table. There's a contact thing that shows their phone numbers. This is a list of what kind of contacts there are. People can make donations. They can ask for a grant, which is down here somewhere. There's the grant request. Every grant is reviewed. Employees are also persons. Their information's in the person table. So in the employee, you just have a person key, so their name and address is up there. They have different positions. Some people have more than one position, which is why there's a linking table between position and employee. Theoretically, when they log in, they're automatically written to the login history table. So the reason for doing this diagram is that it can help you navigate when there's questions. Although this is the one that we're going to use for examples, right? This is the one I'm going to use in class. So I am going to save this. I'm just going to click the little thing here and save it. And diagram 0 is perfectly okay with me. Boy, I hate how this moves when it's in Zoom. Okay. And so that's there if you need it. And you can always, once, I'm going to close it right now. But it's always still there. You don't have to recreate it again. You can just open it. So if I go here and click that open, it has a diagram 0 in there. I'm going to do exactly the same thing with Metro Alt, and I have to do the same thing for the user. Yeah, so I'm going to go to Properties. I'm going to go to File when it gets there. So I'm going to go to Files. I'm going to change. This one has no owner at all because of the way we installed it. So I'm going to do it as SA. And again, SA is not your best owner. What you should do if we were spending lots of time setting this up properly is we should create an account for the SQL Server, which is separate from the admin account. And we should give those accounts permissions on these, and then we should log in under that account and not this one. However, that's a lot of work we just want to get to the SQL. So we can do the same thing on Metro Alt now. We can make a diagram. And then we will go and start new stuff. So I'm going to do a new database diagram. It should give me the same statement I got before. No, it just gave me the diagrams. So I want to do the same thing if I can get this centered. I just want to hold down the shift and catch that last thing. Want to add it. It'll take it a few moments on mine because everything is moving slow. So I did new diagram, right click, new diagram, and then so did you change, so do OK, right click on Metro Alt, properties, files, I'm sorry, change the owner to SA, and then OK. And then you can make a database diagram. You right click on database diagram, and make one this time. And I'm going to close this. And just real quickly, again, this is just for navigation. There are employees. In this one, there's just employees. I didn't separate out person and address and things like that. There's a position and an employee position connection there. There's a bus barn that has buses. Each bus has a type. This is really a key table. Most of the assignments, a lot of the queries that we'll do will take this bus schedule assignment. It's where an employee driver is assigned to a bus shift and a bus route on a certain date, and a certain bus. And there's about 600,000 rows in that.
Wow.
Which for a database is still not very much. Most databases that are big would have like millions of rows. And not in this class, it doesn't matter so much, but in other contexts, like in the summer, when we do indexing, indexes don't even apply until you get up to about 300,000 records, because it's faster just to go through the rows than it is to apply the index. So there's a thing that keeps track of the bus stops, and there's an address for the bus stops, and there's a list for the shifts and things like that. One of the hardest things you're going to have on some of these assignments is figuring out what tables they are, because you didn't write the database. So, all right. I'm going to zoom back down, because I think I'll save this, I guess, first. You can just click the little disk, or you can do file save diagram as. And there will be, if I can find it, a little where is it? I just want to save this database diagram. It should give me a little dialog box. Am I not seeing it?
Didn't give one to me either.
Did it just save it? Let's see. Huh, interesting. All right. Maybe because there was a diagram there at one point.
Yeah, I deleted like the diagram 0 that was already there. It wasn't correct. It didn't have all the stuff. So
This one might. Does it have all the stuff? It has the fair. It has the. It should be. There was.
Sorry. This one was originally there.
What was originally there was different because I changed. I did change it a little bit. So anyway, I'm going to close this, and it should be there too. Now it's asking me if I want to save.
Oh, you close that.
I'm just closing the Metro Alt.
Oh, yeah.
And it's diagram 1 instead of diagram 0.
Did you click save changes? Yes.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to close this. I'm going to move this. I'm going to unzoom. I'm hoping that will make me move a little faster. I might actually change. This is real tiny. I might change the font a little bit up more, just on the top. I'm surprised. I think I lost whatever perspective, the original Zoom. So I'm down to the. So let's do 24. Is that any? Let's see if that works. So a couple of things. We did this last time. I'm going to use Community Assist. And there is IntelliSense here, but it's a little bit dangerous, so you need to be careful of it. One, the IntelliSense is not always in sync with what's actually in the objects. So like later on when we create objects, it may not recognize them over here, or it doesn't always stay in sync. The other thing is when you're doing a select, it doesn't necessarily it won't see the fields until you have the from part, because it doesn't know what table you're referring to. Yeah, you can if you want. I mean, one of the things you need to do is you can use Community Assist. So it's up to you when I'm typing these examples. If you want to follow me, you can, or you don't have to, because I will post the code that we do. Sure.
How did you get that? So it's like empty.
So just new query. The reason I did use Community Assist is that, again, that's the current context, right? When you want to do Metro Alt, you use Metro Alt. If you don't change the context, a lot of your queries will fail because you're in the wrong database. So do you guys want to see what we did last time, or are you ready to move on? I know some of you are ready to move on, but what do you guys, I know a quickie review of what we did last time, or not?
On the video, right?
It's on the video. I'm not going to spend too long at this, and we're going to start the second thing, I think. But if you go, so I'll go to Canvas real quickly. I know we're not getting much progress here, but so Canvas, Seattle Central. I'm going to log into Canvas. So this is more just, we're reorienting probably for a little bit, but then I'll start some of the new stuff. Okay, so I'm going to go to 22. I just wanted to show you so if you go to the syllabus, and I'm going to go to the blog, and this is what we did last time. And I just wanted to show you, if you want to like run some of this. So I'm going to go back here. I'm just going to paste it. And notice that it pastes just fine, and that it will execute just fine. So the code in the blog, the sample code that we do will always be there on the blog. And mostly I try to do a sample that resembles what the assignment is. So I'm actually going to, I'll leave that up, but I'm going to make a new query. And I'll do the use Community Assist again. And we'll start the things from today, but all the stuff from last time is there. I will give people a chance to catch up that didn't have the virtual machine. I'm not worried about when assignments are due. I don't want you to get too far behind. But as I said, I will what I might do is next Thursday make it an open lab, and if you're all caught up, you can have a day off or something. To catch up for the 1 week, basically the kind of stuff we've missed. Within the environment, you do not have to use semicolons. You can. It ignores them. Again, it's not case sensitive. The second one is really about functions and selects. Okay, so, and again, I'm kind of following the book, even though the assignments don't come out of it. The chapter logic kind of follows that. Functions are a lot like, so let's see if I remember what the functions were. Let's look at the assignment. So we go, that's the blog. Microsoft Edge. Actually, I'm going to get that off of there. Go away. All right, so I want to go to the assignments. Guess I could do it down here. So we were going to do the years, months format. So let's look at that. Let's look at some of the date functions. So I'll start off with date functions. So one of the ones that has dates here, I'm going to, just to show the data, select star from donations. And I'm doing that, oh, it's donation. I do singular. All right, so there is a date in here. Notice that it's also a date time, right? So we've got the year, we've got the month, and we've got the day. So I want to do a few things here. We're going to do like select. There's a built-in function called year. And when I do that, I'm going to put inside of it the donation date. It takes an argument, which is a date. And I'm also going to do distinct so that we don't get every year from donation. And what that does, this year extracts the year from the date. And I did distinct, so it only returns one instance of either. Year extracts the year. So if you want to do just 1 year, it's easier than trying to find the year in that date, right? It's harder with this whole date. You have to deal with the date and the month and the time. Sometimes you just want to know the year. You can also do exactly the same with the month. So I'm going to just real quickly, month does exactly the same, but it returns just the month. And it returns them as a number, yeah.
Is this saying like the American format or whatever, so it's the second, like?
Yeah, it always stores the date this way, but you don't have to write it that way. Does that make sense? In SQL Server, now some database environments you do have to write it that way, but in SQL Server I could enter this as 8/9/2015, but it'll still end up like this inside the database.
Right, but I mean, like, say you're like a French company using this, and they write their like date, or they write their day before the month, or whatever, vice versa.
So one of the things that is when you install your server, there's a thing that says collation, and what collation is what language is your default, what's your location. If you said that you were EU or European, then it would use the date format for that. Although I think that it's been agreed upon internationally that this is the format for database dates. But it does take account, like if you say you're in England, when you do money, it'll be pounds, not dollars, things like that. It'll be EU's, European Union stuff if you're in Europe. Also, you can choose your base language. Although it's interesting, SQL is always in English, whatever your base language. The values, the names of the columns, the names that you're looking at might be in French or German or Chinese or Japanese, but SQL is always English. I have a book of SQL in Japanese, and all the commands are English, but the rest of the text is in Japanese. I can't read it, by the way. You can combine these too. I mean, real quickly, I'll do day. So there's all these too. And if I do this, now notice it says no column name, right? That's because we haven't aliased it. When you have a function, if you don't alias it, that's what you get is no column name. So I'm going to do a real quick select. Do I want distinct? I guess I'll do distinct. I'm going to do year, donation date. And I'm going to, in square brackets, do year. Anybody know why I'm using square brackets there?
Oh, so that the name of the column comes out?
So the thing is, it's a reserved word, right? Because it's a function. If I don't put square brackets around it, it's a function. And it might give me an error because it's saying that the function is improperly formed. If you put square brackets around it, it's saying treat it as a literal. We just want the word year, right? So I'm going to do month, donation, date, and I'll do month. And you could put the word as there or not. As is an optional word with aliases. And then I'm going to press enter, and I'll do day. And I'll do day, oops, in square brackets. And then I'll do from donation. What does it not like about from? It should be fine. Let's see. Yeah. See, and it gives me the year, the month, and the day. Because I did distinct, it doesn't return any repeating days. But there are a few. Does that make sense for functions? And notice it does say year, month, day, because I aliased it. With functions, it's a good idea to alias them. I'm going to go back to the raw data here for a moment. And if you want to extract the time, it's a little bit different. And this also works for dates, but I'm going to select, and I'm going to do date part. And I'm going to say what the date part is, and I'm going to do HH for hour, although you can actually just write hour, which might be better. And then I'm going to do donation date, from donation. And again, I might want to do distinct, but I'll just, because there's a lot of them that are the same hour. The reason why the dates are so much the same is I think I did get date when I did an install. And so if I execute that, notice it gives me the hour. This gives me the hour. You could also do minute, second, millisecond, etc. All right, so you can extract all the parts, including the time parts. This also works for day, month, or year, right? So if I did day part day, it would have the same effect as this. Right? So either function can work. And there's a lot of times when you want to pull these out. We'll do a couple of them here before the end of this, if we get there today. Where you might want to group things by year and day and then sum things up, or year and month, rather, sum things up. One other date thing I want to show you, maybe two others, and then we'll go on to some other functions. So I'm going to do select let's see, I'm going to do date add. So date add is a function that adds two dates. And I'm actually not going to take this from the database. I'm just going to give it a date. Today is, so we're going to say in days. I wonder if day will work that way. We need the first day and then how much we're adding to it. So today is, let's say get date. That's today, right? And then I'm going to, get date is another function, by the way. I'll do that in a moment. Get date, and then how many days do we want to add? 30? What?
30.
So if we add the 30 days to the current day, and then we didn't do this, I don't know what to call this, month from now. You can have spaces when you do the square brackets too. The date time is invalid for the operation of date add. What? No, it isn't. I think it's, let's try this. Get date should work. That's weird. It is not invalid. But anyway, let's do, I may have them in the wrong order. That's a good question. Do I have them in the right order? Interval, increment. Yeah, I have them in the wrong order, I think. Let's see if that works. Yeah. So that'll be 511. The way I figured out I had it in the wrong order, when I did this parentheses, it gave me a telesense as to what arguments go where. And I had these two swapped. So that's 30 days from now is the May 11th. It could be a little bit more subtle. I think it's counting whole days. It's not counting from like the fact that it's noon almost. But you can add dates, which is really useful sometimes. Something like this could be really useful if you wanted to check on a due date, or if you wanted to check, you know, like if it's due 30 days from now, you know, that would give you what day it's due, etc. You could do things like this to see if things are overdue, right? So if it's 30 days past the due date or whatever, then you could do that kind of thing. There's also date diff. And that is the subtractions of dates. You again have to say what you're subtracting. So are you subtracting days or years or months, right? You have to tell it what. DD is day, MM is month. I think actually day would have worked up here. Let's try month again. Let's try month. What date do we want to, so this one takes two dates. And I always forget, let's do today, and then let's do, what would be, so let's do, for a date, let's do 4/11/2019. So it should give us like 12, right? Yeah, so that worked. 12 months. There's 12 months between this date and this one, right? So it's basically subtracting this one from this one. The way I know if I get it wrong order is I get a -12. Now you can do it. I'm doing these with kind of literal dates, but you can do these with dates from the database, right? If you wanted to see, you can just put in the field name if it's a date, like we did donation date. And get date is the other function which I've shown you. Get date, I'm just going to do select get date. And then we'll be done with date time functions. that just gives us the current date and time, according to your computer. Right? If your computer's wrong, it'll be wrong. So, questions on those? There are other date and time functions, but these are the ones I think that are relevant to the assignment and that generally cover most everything we do this quarter. No questions? Does that all make sense? Yeah.
So it uses the computer's date and time.
Yeah.
If you're contacting like a server, does it use the server's time?
It would use the server's date and time. Yeah. And it this can also vary. Get date, if you're writing it into a field, it will take account of what kind of field it is. If it's just date, it'll just return this. There's also a date thing that has an offset from Greenwich Mean Time, and it'll count for that if this function actually will vary in its result depending on what the underlying data type of the field is. Okay. So those are date time functions. I'm just going to look so I remember. So this is the date difference, and then the format. Let's do that. Say you wanted to, again, from the donation. Donation works good for this. Say you wanted for a report to put this out that looks more like money, right? The amount.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that you can do is there's a format function. Let's see if I remember the format function. So I'm going to do select. Let's do donation date. And I'm going to do format donation amount. And let's see if I remember how to do this. I'm going to do pound, comma, pound, 0.00. There's probably an easier way to do that, but let's see what that does. So it doesn't like that. What am I missing? Oh, that's because I haven't done it from I'm just going to call this amount from donation. Okay, let's see if that works, if I did the format right. Yeah, so it worked. Right, you can see that the results have dollar signs, and if they're more than 1,000, if they're in the thousands, they have a comma after them. So what this is basically put a dollar sign there. These pound signs are for optional numbers, right? They can show up or not show up. But the 0.00 means that these digits always have to show. There always has to be two decimal places, and if there's nothing here, it'll be a 0. Right? It'll always show. It doesn't mean that these values have to be 00, although they usually, like this one is. If this one is 7.5, right? But if it was like 0, it would show 0.00.
So, sorry, in the red where you have the dollar sign,
yeah,
pound sign. So I guess I'm a little confused. So after the first
comma,
what does it represent?
So the pound signs represent numbers that are optional. If they don't exist, you don't display them. Does that make sense? If this is only $15, you can ignore these two digits, right? Zeros means you have to display it. If I did 000 here, that would mean that if I had $15, it would be 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 1, 5. Right? Be 0, 0, 1, 5. Got 0, 0. If I put zeros there. Zeros mean it's a required digit. It's going to put something there. These means that it's optional. It varies. If there were, and it'll expand if it's like 25,000, it'll expand. This basically just tells it to put commas between thousands, because it doesn't do that by default. The dollar sign means always put the, it's a literal, you just put the dollar sign. All right, so optional digits, required digits. The only time you would have to do this is if you're trying to make an output that is a report, basically, so that it looks nicer. A lot of times what you would do actually is you would move it into a reporting service instead. But people do use these. I honestly don't know how to left align these, though. I mean, right align them. If somebody figures that out, you can tell me. Yeah, sure. I mean, you can format it. Now, this is actually directly to your homework problem, because you had this one. When I did the, so let's go to select star from contact. And this is actually doing one of your assigned things directly for you. So person, I think it says contact. Yeah. So these are the phone numbers. If I want to format them, one of the problems is that the format function only works on numbers. These look like numbers, but the underlying data type for them is character. I don't use number for phone numbers and for zip codes, because a lot of times there are sequences that are illegal. Like if it starts with a 0, it'll just drop it if it's a number.
Mm-hmm.
And there are a lot of zip codes, for instance, that start with 0, particularly in New York and things.
So characters.
Yeah, so basically, and you're never going to add, subtract, or multiply these, so use characters. But the format only applies to numbers. So there's something you can do about that if you want to use the format function for it. It's a little complicated, but there are a couple of times when we will need to do this for other things too. I am going to select, I'm going to cast, so I'm going to cast donation, or not donation, contact number as, I think I need to do it as big int. The reason why is I think some of the phone numbers are bigger than an integer will allow. What does it not like about, oh, it's just because I don't have the from. All right, so I'm casting it to a number. Why is it still not happy? Because my thing is really slow, I think. And then I'm going to format this. And I'm going to, let's see if I can do this right. Parentheses. Right, because that's what a format for a phone number would look like if you were formatting them. Let's see if that works despite the underline. Doesn't like contact. Oh, from contact, not donation. See how it formatted them? But it wouldn't have done it if I didn't cast it to number. And one of the things to tell you is you can have functions inside of functions. You actually can embed up to 255 times, which is insane. Nobody would ever do that. But, so the format function is embracing the cast function, which casts the number as an integer and then displays it at that. Does that make sense, sort of? There are times, cast is how you change a type from one type to another, right? As long as they're compatible. This would fail if there were non-numeric elements in the contact number. There's other ways you could do this. It's a much more complicated way. I don't know if I want to show you right now. I mean, I could. You could break it all up and concatenate it. You know, because it's a string. So you have to do substrings to pull out the different pieces and then concatenate it. That would also work. Do you want to see that, or you want to move on?
See it?
Okay. So if we don't cast it, then what you have to do is select. So I'm going to do, is it substring? I don't think it is substring. It's, well, actually, let's try substring. Yeah, it is substring. So I want, this is for contact number. And we need to, the starting position is 1, and we want to go 3 characters. Although I have to, before I do that, I need to actually put in the literal parentheses. And then I'm going to do plus. Okay. And then I'm going to do plus substring contact number. This again, this is the hard way to do it. Comma, and we'd start at 4, and we'd go 3 characters. The number, the second number there, this is the starting number, and this is how many characters. So we're going to go another 3. And then I'm going to do plus, actually I'm going to break the line so it's on screen, plus a dash, which has to be literally quoted. And I have 2 quotes, which I don't want. And then a plus. And then I'm going to do another substring. Yeah, this is a lot more complicated, but it's kind of fun. So we would start at, so we'd start at 4. This would be what, 7? And 4. If I got any of the numbers wrong, it'll come out wrong. All right. As phone from contact. So if I run that whole thing, it has exactly the same result. It's just a lot more complicated. You need a moment. I will post this. As I said, this will be happy. I mean, this one is fun. It's a little easier. Okay, let me see what other functions I need to show you. I don't know that we'll get through them all today. Maybe. So we got that. Oh, so one of the things I was going to show you is that you can do just simple math in here. So I'm trying to think of what math I would want to do in here. Donation is one place. Yeah.
Could you add all the donations from one user?
You could, although that's a different thing, which we will get to. I'm just going to do select donation key, and then I'm going to do donation amount. And let's say we're going to actually do something like this later when we do functions, but let's say that you want like 30% of the donation to go to maintaining the charity and the rest is. So I'm going to do donation times point or donation amount. times 0.30. Let's call that one as charity. And then I'm going to do donation amount. Actually, should we say maybe maintenance or something? Except I can never spell maintenance. But
Operations.
operations would be a better word, actually. But donation amount times 0.70, and I'm going to break that as charity. The part that goes to charity from donation. And if we run that, that should go. Oh, I broke the line on donation amount in the wrong place. Nah. No, in fact, you don't want to pass there because we're doing multiplication there.
I'm sorry, before the ends.
You don't. It's actually optional. It might make it clearer. So if I do as, it has exactly the same effect. So out of the $157, $47 goes to the maintenance or operations, and $110 goes to the charity. For each thing, it breaks that down. The point is you can do math in here, and it's basically, if you've ever done computer math, it's all the same. Operators, you know, plus, minus, multiplication, division. I actually am not sure if this works as a, I think that works as a modulus. Although it might.
Just curious, this probably is very accurate, but if we were doing math things for like an actual project, how accurate is it, like out to how many?
It depends. It depends on the data type. All right. So some data types have greater precision than others. So for money and things, you're probably fine because you usually don't have to go out a few. I mean, it goes out a few digits here. If you need deeper precisions, you can use decimal and you can set the precision fairly deep. I'm not sure you could do particle physics. You know, I'm not sure there are any number types that have that much precision. But one of the things, you're right though, if you're doing, particularly if you're doing scientific calculations, which there are a lot of scientific databases, you either don't want to do them in the database, or you need to be really careful with the data type and the precision types that you write in there. When we create tables, I'll talk more about the data types. There are a lot of them, but I just wanted to know you could do math. And again, you can do most of any kind of math. And again, the parentheses work like everything else. Yeah.
So if you wanted to format our new maintenance and charity columns.
You certainly could.
Yeah, I just wondered where you put that.
So you'd put it like right in front. So this is, and then I would do a comma here, and then I would do single quotes, and let me just copy this, actually. And then close the parentheses, and then you could do the same down here. And comma after the math expression, close the parentheses, and then if we run that, they'll be formatted as better. And we didn't do donation amount that way. We probably should do it as well. Or if we're doing all dollars. So I would probably, I mean, it would be exactly the same thing. You would just do the format here. when you format it, you lose the name. So I'm going to do donation amount again, or just amount. Let's just do amount. And what that does is it just makes the amount also. Okay, I'm going to start something, and then, as I said, I'm not sure we're going to get through everything, so we might have to finish this up. Question on this? Do we need a moment? Or got it? The other thing I want to show a little bit of, for one thing, there are lots of functions that we're not touching. If you look under functions, I know I could expand it if you want. Look, maybe next time. If you look under programmability and under functions, there are hundreds of functions, literally hundreds. Or everything if you wanted, if you're doing geographical things, so there's all sorts of things for that. There's trigonometry functions, there's all sorts of statistical functions, etc. There are literally hundreds of functions, just to let you know, and we're only touching on a few of them. But I wanted to show you the main aggregate functions and do a little bit with that, and then we'll call it good for the day. So aggregate functions, anybody have an idea what an aggregate function is? Well, they operate on, all the functions that we've used so far operate on single rows. Aggregate functions will operate on groups of rows, including all the rows in the table, basically. And there are things like sum, average, count, max, min, right? So if we wanted to know what the biggest donation was, we could select sum. Actually, let's do max. Donation amount from donation. And that will give us the largest donation. And I could say, I'm just going to say biggest as the column alias. So the biggest one is 12,000. And again, you could format this again if you wanted. You could put a format around that. What you might expect, there is a min, right? So there's a minimum. One of the ways you can tell form functions, can you guess, in Visual Studio? I mean, I'm a student manager. One of the ways you can tell what a function is inside of this environment is they're kind of teal. Or what is this color? Pink, I guess. Yeah, sure. It's not really pink. Kind of. There's a name I was trying to think of it, but it's fine. Yeah. Fuchsia. That's the word I was trying to.
Sorry, quick question. So
Yeah.
Kind of touching up on this question earlier. So biggest is you renamed the column
That's
essentially.
renaming it. Yeah.
Could you just also write as well, just to keep it sort of like?
Certainly, you can if you want.
I just wasn't sure like how it knows that without saying as.
The as is optional.
Okay.
So it knows because it's the next word and it's not a column. I mean, it figures it out. You don't have to use as. It might make sense to make it as a for clarity.
Thank you.
I'm going to do similar kind of thing. I'm going to just go through the biggies here real quickly. Sum. I'm just going to change this to total. So this will give you the total of all the rows, right? So we have $55,766 in donations. I'm going to change that to average. And then I'm going to show you a little bit about how you combine things here. Average. So when I run that, the average donation is over $1,000, but mostly because of that really big one at the top. And last but not least, count. Count does not give you like the total, it just gives you the number. So it basically says how many donations are there. All right, so I'm going to do that. And it says that there are 48 donations. And it's just basically, because we're not giving any other arguments, it's just doing all the, how many are in the table. So these are the main aggregate functions. There are others, right? There are, if you really wanted to, there are variant and a lot of other statistical functions. But these are the main ones. So I'm going to show you a little bit more. Notice I didn't do any other fields there. If you do other fields, they kind of mess things up. But we have to do some other things. So I'm going to do one quickie thing, and I think it's going to be what I call it for the day. I am going to do, what if you wanted to know how the sum, say, of all the donations in a gift for, and you wanted to arrange them by month and year. Does that make sense? The data, just warning you, the data in the community is just not that deep, so it's a bit of a mess. But I'm going to do, let's say we wanted to, I'm going to do select, and I'm going to do year, donation date. Remember we used that before, and I'll alias it as year. I'm going to do month, donation date. And I'll alias it as month. And then I'm going to do sum donation amount. We'll do it from donation. All right, that's going to fail. Anybody know why? I'm going to execute it so the error is really tiny there. It's invalid because we're trying to do two things at the same time. These are row by row functions, right? Month and date operate on individual rows, whereas sum operates on groups of rows. So basically what we're trying to do two things that are incompatible. There's a way around that, and it is a function, it's basically a clause called group by. So if I group by year, donation date, and unfortunately you can't group by the alias, month, donation date. And I might also, and I should have parentheses, I might also order by year, donation date. And this is just to make it come out in a nice date. And I'll do a secondary order by month. Hopefully this works. So the group by, why is it not like that? Oh, I left out the in. What the group by does is it says to create groups for that sum to apply to. So it's going to group by year and it's going to group by month. So if we run it, maybe I should just do year first. It works this time, right? We've got 2015 and 2016. We've got 2 months in each. And these are the amounts for, this is the amount for, is that August? September, August. August 2015 is 49,000. Most of everything is there. And I didn't alias this, and I should have. And then there's, for 2015 in the September, there's $4,700, 805. As I said, it's not a rich data set. But it groups it by. So let me do like total. I'll do this as total. And you can, if you want, you can certainly format as well. You can format the sum. Not that that's that hard to copy, but I mean to type. It's probably taking longer to copy it than it would take. So if I run it now, let me break that line so it's on screen. Total probably should have been capitalized, but anyway. And you can do a lot of nice summary information here, right, for doing this kind of thing. You can create a lot of reports with this kind of aggregating things. I think that's all, yeah.
Just so I understand, group by year is just because of the teams 15 are together, and then the order by is just.
The order by is just making sure that they're in order. Let's see what
in like by
happens.
15, 16. But if you wanted to do descending order, could you put like descending?
You could put descending.
I was trying to understand, you separated the functions to group it together and then also in order.
Right, partially because you can't group by the alias. So this is year, this is month, but you have to actually use the underlying function to group by. You have to group by anything that is not part of the aggregate function. So anything that is not a part of the sum, or if I had an average or something, anything that is not subject to those aggregate functions has to be grouped by. If I did this, maybe it would be a little clearer if I actually got rid of the month. I'm just going to, I'll just cut it. Tell you what, I'll leave this, but I'll do it with just the year. So I'm going to copy that whole thing. The order by isn't absolutely necessary, and you could do it descending if you want. I'm going to cut the month out. And I'm going to, so then I need to cut that out here too. So I'm going to group just by year. And this will work. It'll just group by the year. So we have 2 years, right? The order by is just grouping by the year. So those are the totals for the year. This one is the total, it has a double group by. The year is the primary one and the month is the secondary one. Just like in down below in the order by, which you could leave out. The order by, this is the primary sort is by year and the secondary sort is by. And if we run it with descending, then it should be 2016 first. So notice it's 2016 first. These are still sorted ascending because we didn't put a descending on that one. So there's a couple of little things I need to show you. If you are working on these at home or want to, if you look at last quarter or the quarter before that, last quarter or last spring in the blog, you'll see the pieces that I haven't covered yet. But I will cover them on Monday, I guess. I will post this part too. I think there's a switch thing in the assignment that I haven't covered. Is there? Actually, let me look. Maybe I left that out. Maybe I've covered most of this stuff. The lowest, so max, min, average, count. Yeah, the case structure. We haven't covered the case structure. We haven't covered halving, which is this one. That one's just a sum, metro altered system. We haven't covered the system views. I will cover those last little bits on Monday. And then, but as I said, if you want to get there earlier, just look at the blog from last time. Okay, questions? thank you for the patience of getting set up. It took a long time. We've done, what, a week and a half, basically, to get set up. But hopefully things will move a little better now. Are there questions before we are done? I mean, that you need? Yeah, or you're just moving. Okay. One of the troubles with being up here for so many years is I get hyper aware of movements. Thinking people are asking questions. So I will copy what I've got so far. I might add the other stuff before. Well, we'll do it, but it's as I said, it's everything from last time, and I might add it to this one too. But for right now, I'm just going to copy it. Yeah.
Question on line 32.
Sure.
The title changed to how many, like as far as the column?
Right.
Oh, I still guess I'm a little confused on like why can't you just write as how many instead of like writing in brackets?
Well, it has to be in brackets either way, whether I use as or not, because you can't have spaces in column names.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So it actually, I could do as, if I ran these together, it would be fine without the brackets.
Understood. Thank you so much. You said that once and I totally forgot.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And the reason this one is in brackets is because it's a reserved word, right? So what the brackets do is I say treat it as a literal. Notice like year over here is a function. So if I do it over here, it's also a function. Yeah.
Would it just be considered like best practice then to anytime you're renaming a column to put it in brackets?
You could. I don't usually, but you could. One of the things, like if I go to, let me just do one of the tables. I'll just do, I just want to show you. I'm going to do like select. If you drag a column in, which you can do, it always drags it in with brackets. And the reason why it does that is it doesn't know whether you typed it correctly or not. I mean, it doesn't know whether you used a correct name or not. So it just automatically puts brackets around it so it'll work no matter what. So you can misname columns if you want. You can put spaces in column names and stuff. It's a really dumb idea, but it'll work if you put brackets around it. You know, but there are a lot of things that are illegal. Spaces, like if you had a percent sign is illegal. Basically anything other than letters, numbers, and underscores. That's all that's. And there are a lot of, you'll see a lot of databases that just do the underscore between words rather than run them together. I run them together, which isn't uncommon, but I think it's because I've done programming for years. And variable names are usually that way. Yeah.
And then when we submit like the assignments, I'm just curious if we did something wrong, do you like get back? Like, do you?
I do. So what I will do is I will make a comment on it. And if I do take a point off, I will tell you why, and I'll show you the correction, and you can resubmit it. But yeah, I will. If I see something wrong, I'll let you know, and I'll talk about why, and how to fix it. And submitting them, as I said, just the SQL is enough. I don't need to see the results unless I explicitly ask for them. Okay, so I think I did already. Okay, so there will be a video for this also today, which has lots of dead spots in it, but it